Welcome to those who just joined us on the phone. We're just getting started. I hope you can hear me. If you can't, let Jennifer know in the chat, I think, right? Okay, so we're going to start off today. We're going to just talk about responsibility and ownership. And I want a lot of interaction here. And there are no wrong answers. I think that's the other thing that we need to just put on the table. Let's be vulnerable a little bit. Let's talk about why it's hard, where you've stumbled, how I can help you through this session to bring back some skills. We're going to talk about why it's hard. Heard a lot of techno talk this morning, right? I love everything that was shared in the session. Didn't hear anything about the people. So we're going to talk about why it's so hard. And then we're going to talk about how to embed organizational change into your programs, your projects, your way of thinking. And then how do you kind of think about your personal change capability as you enter your next project, as you go back and have your next meeting. And then I'll talk a little bit about the Minnesota Change Management Network, which is a great resource for people locally to get involved. It's an organization similar to this, but for change managers. So anything that's not on this agenda that you wanted to get out of the session today? I'll address anything. We'll talk about anything you want. I won't talk about politics in Minnesota, and I will. So that's the other thing that I will not talk about. So that would take us all day. So anything else on here that you think you wanted to hear about? Does this match your expectations? Okay. All right. So let's just talk for a minute. Who is responsible for organizational change management? You are on a big SAP implementation. Who's responsible for change management? Okay. And who does that mean? Who is everyone to you? Who's everyone?
So anytime there's a change, someone is funding and driving and being held accountable for making that change happen. So certainly whoever in leadership does that, the team that's actually doing the change, the people who are consuming the change, I mean, they all have some role to play.
Who else? Any more specifics around?
Communications.
Communications. Okay, so your communications team. Yep. Okay. Who else? Jill.
Any successful change that I've been through, it's driven by leadership.
Leadership. I love it.
Totally by leadership. Yep. And they're mentored and coached.
Yep. Okay.
To the masses.
Okay. And how many times have you gone into a project? This is the most important thing we're doing, by leader A. And leader B says, this is the most important thing. That's not on my goals and objectives for the year. Yep. Okay. Who else is responsible?
Your influencers.
Okay.
Your business leaders that aren't leaders. Well, they could be anybody. They could be, I would call them your early adopters, maybe people that understand and can bring out the positivity in the change and not and mitigate the worry. Those are not always the executives. I've found them actually in much deeper corners of the world. I think it's your influencers, or I would say you can make them responsible, but I think they're key to it.
Great. I'll tell a story. I worked for one of my clients was a large healthcare company, a large healthcare system in the Carolinas, and I would go to the CEO's monthly CEO corner. Oh my gosh, I was so energized. I get back to the regular, his direct reports and like that did not trickle down at all, right? So you're right. I don't know that it's always the most executive. There definitely has to be acknowledgement for what's happening, but it is really as you get kind of further down in those influencers. Anyone on the phone have any input? Okay. And why it's so important is when we think about who, and you've just named a lot of really important people, right? I often hear, well, it's the HR responsibility. I don't know if I believe that. It's the change manager's responsibility. Well, certainly, but it's also your responsibility as business architects, right? To speak the language and advocate for the change. But it's really about the people, right? And enterprise ownership, in my experience, and read any book, is really when everybody has responsibility for the change. So your frontline supervisors, your executive leaders, your HR department, your communications people, everyone, your project team. Think about your project team members. If they come out of a project team meeting and go back to their workplace, and you're like, this sucks. I can't believe we're doing this. What is that coworker going to think? Oh gosh, this is so that permeates throughout the organization, right? We had a group of testers come in for UAT, and the number one thing that happened was that failed. That testing cycle failed because they came in with expectations about how the system and their work is performed today, not how it's going to be performed tomorrow. So what happened was they went back to the hospitals and clinics and said, this is never going to work for us. Took us 30 days to get around to every single clinic and every hospital team meeting to go through and recoup that damage that had been done because those testers did not view themselves as agents of change or owning the change. So it's so important that everybody has ownership for that change. And I love the leader comment. I love the everyone comment, and everyone does mean everyone. So no pointing fingers, right? Okay. Other questions or thoughts around how you have seen people either step up or not step up, or other audiences that you think are important for owning change? Board members? Public relations departments? Marketing? In M&A, marketing is really important. Rebranding. International relations, all your procurement, they work with the vendors, right? So your audiences and your people who are responsible for the change really expands as you think about the complexity of the change. Anyone on the line have anything to add? Okay, so why is it so important? These are statistics. Everybody likes to throw up statistics, right? 60% of strategic initiatives fail if you don't have change management. 69% more, greater capacity for better efficiencies and more work. You're 6 times more likely to meet project objectives in organizations. These are all true. They're in every book. What I find interesting about these is they're not small numbers, right? It's not 10, it's not 5. It truly is scientific. There has been a lot of studies done, and we can attribute, a lot of KPIs and metrics around why it's important. And I think it's important to show this because when I go into executive meetings, steering committees, they want to know, Sheri, what happens if we don't do it? Okay, well, if you don't invest in change management and you don't hold people accountable for it, here are some statistics that are industry recognized, but I don't want to be in your shoes when it doesn't work, right? Because we're here telling you that you need it. And I think some of us were talking in the lunch line about, some of our organizations just aren't paying attention to the need for change. But a couple things that in my experience, it's just the speed of adoption. You're investing hundreds of millions of dollars in big transformations on an annual basis in big organizations. And if your employees aren't adopting quickly enough, they're back here and you're continuing to move on your strategic roadmap, right? And that can be really difficult. One of my clients was the U.S. Marine Corps, probably my favorite client I've ever had. It was so interesting. And they were implementing Oracle. And I was brought on to do some communications for a few months and ended up being there for 3 years and traveled all over the world with the Marine Corps. And one of the guys said, ma'am, why do we need that? And I said, well, let's talk through that, Master Sergeant. What's going to happen when we implement this system? Will the Marines know what they need to do differently? Ma'am, they're Marines, they know what to do. And I said, okay, that's great. But are they still going to fill out, this is the logistics, are they still going to fill out the paper-based maintenance form that goes on the tank that says when the last time the tires were changed? Or are they going to use the system as intended, an investment by the U.S. government to do that system? Well, they'll probably do both. And I said, that's wrong, because we don't want them looking on the maintenance file in the paper. That's why they're getting stranded in the desert. We want them to use the system. Oh, that's a whole different thing. You're right. So hence world tour to demonstrate the system to Marines. But just that speed of adoption, just think about the time wasted if they're working in the old system or they're working in the new system and getting that return on investment. And then proficiency, right? How well are they, we already covered utilization, but how well are they able to perform in that system? And that's where training comes in. So your partnership with training. How many people have a training department in their org? I know you do. Cargill does for sure. Dedicated training, Best Buy I know does. That is, and are they embedded? Are they in your projects? Do you guys see them at the table? Or do they get later? Here's what we need. They need to get trained on. Much later. Yeah, too late probably, right? I'm not a training expert, but I try to stay away from the training world just because I'm not that great at it, writing it. So, the proficiency is super important. Does this make sense to you guys? Yes. Yes. I think we need to get the microphone. I have to Phil Donahue it back here. You're good.
So I think these stats are great and data is great. And it sounds like when you've presented this to leaders, that created a compelling case to invest in change. I've worked on a handful of projects where this is the last investment we make, or we overlook the importance or the value that this investment can bring, despite the fact that perhaps we're showing the data.
Mm-hmm.
Have you had situations like that, or do you have recommendations when you're meeting that resistance?
Every day. And I will say, when people ask me, Sheri, how can you prove that change management is worth the investment? My response is, if I had that answer, I wouldn't be here. I'd be in the Caribbean. I will have whatever in the book. But I just know it's painful. And you're right. Change management is the first thing that gets cut. I worked for Oracle Consulting in my first days of when I was with the Marine Corps. And every time the sales guys would come, okay, we got to put change management in the bid. Well, yeah, you do. Oh, we're cutting it. Then they'd come back 6 months later. Oh gosh, we need you now. I'm not coming now. It's 6 months too late. So I think some of my keys to success have been partnering up front with the project manager and your IT team. Partner up front with those leaders to say, here's how I can help you and be your partner. Because if you get a good PM who believes in it and you can talk them into it, unfortunately, well, right, wrong, or indifferent, that is the person that executives are listening to on a big project, is that PM who holds the key to that whole project. So that's been my key to success. The other thing that I found is get in and do a quick, short investment and show some quick wins. So I'll come in and build you, and this is not my favorite thing to do, but I'll come in and build you a comms plan then. And then they'll say, well, how are we going to implement it? Oh, okay. Well, then that takes more people and that takes a bigger investment of time or money. So those have been kind of my two key things. I've been able to stay on projects long-term because I think it's more than communications. It's more than training. It's in the trenches. It's walking the floors with people. I put in SAP at Miller Coors and was down on those brewery floors in the hot side and the cold side, and quickly learned you're not supposed to wear a skirt to a brewery. I didn't know that until my team did and couldn't walk up it's crazy the things you learn. But if you get down in the trenches, I think that has a lot. And these stats mean zero to people. They really do. I just put them up there to show that there are some numbers, and you can dispute these all day long if you want, because it's probably disputable. Oh, just for brewery, you brew some of it. It gets real hot, so you brew the hops and yeah, and then it cools down. Yeah.
So numbers.
Yeah.
Are there any KPIs that you're asked to give to prove your change management working? Or what are some examples of that?
Sure. So there's a whole bunch of ways you can do it. I keep it very simple because you're talking about people, right? So I'm going to have X number of engagement sessions and how many people show up to those. I can tell you right now, Joseph, if I have a town hall or I have a engagement session with your staff and with your team and other teams, and I say, oh, only 2 people from Joseph's team came, but wow, look at all these people from that department, I will come and tell you, I think it's going to fail for you. Your people aren't showing up. So You can always survey people, and I think those are okay. I think they take a lot of time. I know I shouldn't say this because change managers don't like to hear this, but readiness assessments, okay. But I like to keep it to like 5 questions. Do you know about this? Are you getting the information you need? Do you know where to go to get questions? Do you even know how this impacts you? And what's your, like, I keep those really simple, but you can put that, I put that on a trajectory and say we're improving, but then you always have to have be logical, right? You have to have a statistically valid sampling of your population. You need to survey the same people to make that over time. So I like to set up KPIs right at the beginning. I'm going to hold this many of that. I'm going to talk to this many of those. I'm going to be with that many of that audience. So I like to set those up right at the beginning and create my own scorecard. And I work that with the project manager and the executives and align that with the outcomes. Change management the change manager can't be responsible for on time and on budget. But neither can just the PM, neither can just the tech team. So everybody has some shared responsibility there, right? Great question. Anything else? Okay. Did that help you at all? Okay. And I'm happy to talk offline and send you some trade secrets if you want them. So why is this so damn hard? Well, my number one reason that I think it's hard is in the bottom, in the middle, professional loss. So you often are working and making a change that says, now Sheri used to be the queen of this spreadsheet. She was the only one that had the information, and now everyone's going to have access to it. Or Sheri used to report to the VP. In the new structure, Sheri's VP is now a director, or Sheri is now not reporting to the VP. And suddenly I personally have lost a lot. And believe it or not, your position, the information you have, the people you influence, and the people you work with every day in your organization feeds a lot into your work ego. Right? Nobody works hard to stay at the bottom of the ladder. So when you talk about the loss that people are going to have, it is enormous and it is devastating. It's horrible grief. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep. When we put in SAP at Miller Coors, and I tell this story because it's so telling. The guy on the top would pick up a phone and call the guy at the bottom, and they were guys, and say, okay, Joe, open the chute. That was going away. So now the guy at the top said, well, what's my job going to be? That seems like it all goes up to the command center. And the guy at the bottom said, well, what am I going to do? Plus, I'm not going to talk to you. Total job security. So that is what I encourage everyone when you are thinking about your architecture and we have this roadmap and we're going to put in this technology and we're going to create these processes. Who does it impact? Please think about that. I think take that away from here. Every time you're in a conversation, who does that impact? And that's how you all can start to become better change managers, but also better business people, right? Not going in with the blind eye. Okay. The lack of trust piece is really important too. And I think this is really important for an IT person to think about is how do you build trust with all of your stakeholders? So Neil talked a little bit this morning about kind of, going to the board with those diagrams. Those are stakeholders, right? Going to executives. Those are stakeholders. How do you build that trust with your stakeholders or audiences? Stakeholders is kind of not a good term to use in change management anymore. They're audiences. So building that trust is really important for all of you to be thinking about. And you need to have trust with your frontline supervisors. You need to have trust with your end users. I worked on an M&A project, and the business architects were my pet project. Get in a room, let's journey map this. What is this going to mean? This was a hospital system. And they said, well, everybody's got to get a clinical phone. Well, that's great. They don't have those today. What does that mean? Well, they had gone out on their surveys, surveying the equipment, the IT team, told everyone they were getting new phones. So the nurses are now all thinking, I'm going to get a new iPhone. I'm going to get a company issued iPhone. No, that isn't what you're getting. You are getting a phone that will allow you to use your clinical applications while you are at work. You can take it home with you, but it's not your phone. You will not be putting Insta on it. So lack of trust, right? Right there, our IT department lost so much trust with the end users because they had went out and said, they didn't share with the change team. They didn't share with the executives. They didn't share with the communications team what they were out doing. They were just out doing surveys. What are you surveying? What are you asking? Can we help with that? And that lack of trust made the regional leaders were up in arms. I mean, to the board, they're making promises. And so you can understand how important that trust piece is when we're managing through change. So I encourage you, when you think about the solutions, think about who's going to use that solution. And these are things you're like, that makes really common sense. I get it. But do you do it? So I just challenge you to really do that. Anything on here that you think is missing from why it's hard?
I have a saying that I use that you listen to the radio and it's WIIFM. What's in it for me?
Yep, the WIFM.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. Always think about that. But if you think about what's in it for me, always think about also what's in it for others, right? The other people that I need to interact with. But at the end of the day, like we were just talking, it is about your emotions. And I would bring this into any executive meeting and say, this is really the reality of why you need change management. You're managing people through this. Think about your home life and the emotions if you have kids or a spouse or you're taking care of parents or dogs. People are moving through this at different times all the time. So today I might be in denial because there is no way in heck I want to have that change in my life. The next day I might say, oh, I'm okay. I can let go of that. Oh gosh, but not that one. Now I don't want the other change that's coming. And people will move through
Hello.
this.
Hi, I'm good, thanks.
Okay. People will move through this throughout the project, throughout the life cycle of the project at various times. I often feel like a therapist. Like, wait a minute, hold on. Yesterday you were fine. What's going on? What happened? So just think through this. Maybe you think about a situation where you've been through this at work or home and kind of how you have moved through this. I think you can relate that to anything that you're working on at work. Did you have something to add, Joseph? Okay. So let's talk about all that is great. Sheri, you're talking about all these emotions and there's so much going on. What do I need to do? So when I think about traditional project management focus, everybody's done these, right? Bane of my existence to create a project plan. That all looks familiar, but how familiar does what's on the right side look like? Hey, let's get in a room and start plotting out your technical roadmap. Then what does that mean for people? Anybody done journey mapping before? Yeah, Cargill I know is big into it. You've done it? So we kind of understand what's going to happen for me, what's going to happen for you. I did a bank merger here locally and we mapped what's going to happen for our customers and then how does the frontline associate need to be able to respond to that. So come in and say, hey, why do I have this new app? And the teller says, oh, I don't know. It's not a very good experience, right? So if you really get in a room, and I encourage you to put this up front in every project that you start, hey, can we map out the journey? If people get weird on the word journey, can we map out the impacts on what's going to happen when to people? Not just the IT department, not just the business group, but the people who are going to have to use it. What does that look like? Any stories about how this has been successful for you guys? Are you willing to try that if your organization doesn't want to do that? Would that be hard?
I'm curious, in today's virtual world where rarely do we have people on a physical whiteboard,
Yep.
it's on a virtual whiteboard. Can you be have you seen equal success in doing that type of thing?
I don't think it's equal success, but I think it's where we are today. And I think we have to make it work. I mean, this is where your mural boards come. I'm always willing to get on a plane, and I know a lot of organizations just aren't there yet and may not ever be there. But yes, I think you can have the same level of success. Here's what I think it takes. It takes more meetings, more calls, longer hours in a day, because you're having more calls, right? To say, you said you were going to, I'll take my example of the IT department going out and doing those surveys. I think if we would have all been in the traditional war room on a big project, like, we were decades ago, where you would know that they were going out to the sites to have those conversations, and you could influence that. Didn't have the opportunity. So I think it's more difficult, but I think we have to figure out how to do it, whether we use mural boards or we use whiteboards and team chats. Yes, and I do it with smaller groups, actually. So I do it with a smaller group of people than I normally would in person. I go back and iterate with my team and say, this is what we heard, this is what we think, and go back and do validation. So I think it's just a few more steps, but absolutely. You got to have people corralling corralling the goats, or whatever that saying is. Herding the cats, that's it. Yep. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Mm-hmm. 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 Yep. Yep. I think that's a great point. So did a bank merger locally here, and journey mapping kind of became our kind of foundation for our change management. And we took a conference room, and luckily we had a person on the team that was really good at it, and she had a lot of time for it. And we had a whole conference room that had these journeys of personas, and we kept inviting people in. Do we have all the personas that are impacted by tellers? Do we have all the right IT personas here? We kept inviting people in to even just come in for 5 minutes, and you write it on the posties. We'll figure it out. At the end, we spent thousands of dollars to have those printed on big, huge papers, and we made it mandatory for those workstream owners to come to a day meeting, and we walked through in ad nauseum that journey to say, speak now or forever hold your peace, right? Do we have everybody accounted for? And it does take a lot of discipline. And again, it comes back to that leadership, buying in, to having people come in and spend that time. But I would recommend making it very well known that you're doing that. Create an open space where people can come either virtually or in person to say, oh, I think you've missed my application developers, or you've missed you don't have branch security on here. That's a big deal, because the locked room is changing in the branches. So some of that stuff that's sitting in the ivory tower, you would never know, but starting to invite people in. And then we kind of took some of it on the road too. And it doesn't have to be physically on the road, but on calls. Can we come to the regional leader meeting and walk through who we think, and here's a snapshot of the journey. What have we missed? So I think I just think it takes a lot. It's not a one and done exercise, and it's not a one size fits all. So, okay. And I think journey mapping is a great way to get all of your impacts on a page. Okay. So what can you guys do? I know we're probably running short on time here. So just some things that I want. I hear a lot of open minds in the room, like, I think that's what I should be doing, or we're doing some of that. If you're on the project, you're responsible for change. And you as IT business architects can say that. You can say, I'm responsible, but you know what, HR business partner, so are you. You know what, finance, so are you. And it's okay to say that. And I think that is the language that we need to start using. You're on the project, you're in this seat, you're responsible. Partner with your change management team. A lot of your organizations, as I started at the beginning, are spending money on change management. And if they're not, and you have an embedded change management team, that's still a resource, and that's still an outlay of expenditure, please partner with them. I have spent countless hours begging IT to get to the table with me. And once they do, it's like, whoa, we should have done this months ago. Collaborate, communicate. I don't think anybody in the seat title of change manager, they're not know people, they're how people. So let's talk about, we know you have to do this. We know it's on the roadmap. We know it's got a timeline. How do we get there together? And the other piece that's really important there is you may not know everything else that's happening in the organization that's impacting the same group of people, right? And someone else does. So bring that in, right? Oh, we're going to put in, we're putting in a system, or we're making an org structure change. Well, hold on. There's also some legal and regulatory things that have to change. And those you can't not do. Those have to happen, right? So I think that's a great place to have those conversations and really think about how can we partner, but also deconflict what's happening so that you all have greater success. Co-create in workshops, journey mapping, virtually, in person, big groups, small groups, co-create. Here's our roadmap. What else is going on? How does that fit in? That's super important. And you don't have to be the facilitators. You guys might feel like, I'm not a good facilitator. I don't want to do that. Ask somebody who is a good facilitator to come and do that for you. And the other piece there is just that hands-on validation from the end user, right? What does that mean? Does this even make sense for the business that we're in? And I don't think we always go into a project with what business are we in? It's been my experience. Which leads me to get smart about the business. Again, I'll go back to my healthcare system example. Some of our HR people had no idea that there was a centralized HR office in one of the hospitals that everybody went to for everything. And HR decided, we're getting rid of that person and we're going to lock that office door. Hold on. Have you been to that facility? Do you know how they operate? Do you know what's going to happen? Get smart about the business. IT, get smart about the business. Who are we serving? And then listen. It's not a one and done. So just because you go visit once on the phone or in person, or you have one conversation, continue to communicate throughout. This is where we are on the timeline. Oh, we just had another requirement that's now going to be, part of our solution. How is that going to work for you? Just that constant listening. They don't have to like it. This is not a popularity contest. I'm not suggesting that at all. But people will not like a lot of this. That's okay. You're not there to make lifelong friends. You're there to accomplish your business goals. What else have you guys experienced or wish that people would do? Anything here that's missing?
I love this because I think that as architects, as business architects, as anybody who is making change and putting it on people, we kind of fall into this trap as well of not really thinking about what that new model is or what that new capability model that you're going to go ahead and publish is going to do to the other people who are maybe working on those things today. So I love this idea of, being really brave and being really courageous and sticking up for, hey, can we bring change into the conversation? I think as business architects, we do a lot of work around, let's talk about capability models. Let's talk about like an org model. Let's talk about the groups or the audiences, and we map all of those things out. But they become really fantastic tools when you partner up with a change manager or anybody to be able to talk about, well, let's understand how changing this capability or maybe adjusting this value stream is going to have an impact on these groups of people. So I think there's a lot that we bring to the table. And if we're finding ourselves not in really big projects, maybe take a look at the work that you're currently doing today, because I am sure that there are things that you are publishing and putting out there, whether they be models, whether they be diagrams, where you are really trying to advocate for somebody to go to that report that you just created or to go to that web page that you set up, and you want them to use that information. So just some really, really great takeaways there.
That's great. Thank you. I agree. The other piece that I want to just articulate is you all know industry best practices when it comes to business architecture. I don't think anybody wants to argue with that or debate that with you in a meeting. That's great. We need to, as an organization, implement industry best practices. Absolutely. But how do we get there in a way that makes people get there with you, right? So just think about that. And you're right. If you're working on something small, you've got a diagram out there and you need somebody to do something on it. I could not read one of the diagrams that were on a company website if it was, I need an explanation. I need someone to walk through that with me. I'm not alone. There are many that can do it, but I'm not alone in not being able to do that. So think about that. What language am I speaking? I think that could really be helpful. Any other comments on this one? Okay, what are some competencies? Number one competency or characteristic of somebody who's really good at helping somebody move through change is empathy. Put yourself in their shoes. We talked about what someone might be losing. Put yourself in their shoes. And I know this is like, well, wait, why are you telling me I need to put myself in their shoes? Shouldn't they put themselves in my shoes? And I learned something one time, and I think this applies here. I worked at Dayton's, Hudson's, Marshall Fields in the marketing department. And there was this person who I worked with so well. I loved her. She was great. And that marketing department back in the day was really cliquey and, oh, you had to be in this cool group. I probably wasn't in that group. And I would walk down the hall and that person would walk this way and I would say, hi, Karen. And she totally ignored me. What the hell? So Myers-Briggs was big at the time. So we went to Myers-Briggs. Well, I learned something. Shocking to no one in this room. I'm an ENTJ. She is not an E. She's an I. And I learned that the E's have to say hi first. And I will never say hello first. It's not that she didn't like me. It's that she's not comfortable picking her head up and saying, hi, Sheri. I think it's the same here, right? People cannot put themselves in the shoes of an IT person unless you're an IT or you really understand it. But I do think we all need to put ourselves in the shoes of the person we're impacting the change, right? Communicate, communicate, communicate. I keep saying that. Frequently engage. Change management is not communication, by the way. Communication is a component of change management, but it is not in and of itself change management. But you do need to communicate frequently. Role model. You guys as business architects are looked at as experts. The business is looking at you. Walk me through this. Tell me why. Tell me what. Role model, positive behavior. Not, it's on our roadmap, we have to do it. Or, I can't believe you don't get this. Role model positive behavior to help people through that. Influence, 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 influence. Influence without authority. Everyone's probably read the book, right? I mean, it's a big deal. But you all have a lot of opportunity to influence people by doing the three things to the left. What other competencies or characteristics do you think make up a good change manager in the shoes of a business architect? Expertise, business expertise. This covers it.
I would
Guess,
say
right?
integrity.
Love that. I love that. Tell me what that means to you, though.
So believing in the company policy, but also understand, so it bleeds a little bit into empathy, I would say, but you have to enforce the policy and have some sort of moral compass to enforce it, but also understand where the person approaching you with the change is coming from.
I love that. I'm going to add that to my list. What else? Anyone on the phone?
Online, we have sincerity.
Okay, I like that. Yep, nobody likes a phony.
Pragmatism.
100%. Yes, that is a good one. You don't need a bunch of fluff and stuff. You got to be really pragmatic, right? Where are we today? Where are we going? What's realistic? I've walked into organizations and I have a lot of great ideas. We could have a parade. We could have balloons. And they're like, no, we're having layoffs. We can't do that.
Online, we also have authenticity.
That's a good one.
It's part of communication, but you have to have vision, an overall vision.
Okay.
You can't just be so zeroed in. you have to have a holistic view or a vision to be able to do all these. I think it starts with that, understanding the vision, whether companies just the project. What's the
Okay.
vision?
So aligned on a vision. Okay. I like that. What else? Okay. Accountability, did somebody just say? And that goes back to the beginning, right? Like who's accountable? So I think it's just that shared accountability. Okay. Okay. I think anything else you want to add there? Anything else from the phone? All right. I just put this in here because I'm repeating myself, but I wanted some slides that you could reuse. Okay. Yep. We got a few more minutes, but really when we think about change management, it's really just beyond the project plan, right? You think about all of these things. I leave this slide in here because I think you can take this and put it in your next project plan or your next project meeting. But what you can do, I'll fix the formatting. But the last one, I want you to think about, I ask you to think about this, think about championing enterprise change literacy. Those are really like the words, but just think about how do we embed change? How do we get people thinking about it's okay, Jill, you're not going to do this today, but you're going to do this tomorrow. Or, and it's sometimes okay. I see people all the time at the tail end of their career going through big change. They're like, I'm out. I'm not doing it. And that is okay. People can opt out, right? We're good. So I just think about some of these things. These are just some things that I was thinking about and kind of went through just kind of a little history in my mind of some of the projects that I've gone and led and have failed and succeeded on, what I wish we would have done and what we had done that made it successful. Okay, so collective ownership. You are all walking out of here with a little small badge of, I now know a little bit more about organizational change and can champion it. Everybody owns it. It's about mind shifts, right? It's not just about today I'm going to press 0 on the keyboard and tomorrow I'm going to press Control Z. You can teach a monkey to do that. It's really the process and the mind shift. Engage early and build those competencies. Okay. Questions, final thoughts? Helpful? Okay. Well, what if I want to become more of a change manager? How can I learn more? Who can I get involved with? I am on the board of an organization called the Minnesota Change Management Network. I encourage you to check us out. We are a Minnesota group of people who do change management for a living. It's a great support network because sometimes this gets lonely and hard. We need therapy. We have a monthly summit. Learn more about our membership. Scan this QR code. Email me directly. I can help you understand more about what we do and how you might want to get involved. But a lot of change adjacent people there. So not people who are doing it just for a living, but who have to manage change in their orgs. And I think you get these slides, right? So you get the QR code. Yeah, is that right, Jennifer? They get the slides, right? Okay. Any final questions? Okay. I am happy to talk throughout the next few days. If you have questions or want to talk about ideas or have a problem that you want me to help you think through, happy to do that. And I really appreciate your time. It's good to meet all of you. Thank you.